Hello everyone. Before we go proceed into this video, I just noticed I've done a little less top 8 lists for a while now, so I'm doing this top 8 list as a reminisce of all the recent boss fights that I have done in Upper Omnia. So this is my only personal opinion. If you didn't struggle on this certain boss fight through the years that I'm going to go on this list, then good for you. Because this is nothing more than my personal opinion. It I, this is a recounting of my early tales in Upper Omnia. So there are C50 bosses that I am going to discuss here. C50 era. This list also covers the Cosmos era, the Chaos era. It also has the dimensions end stage. And I decided to do this list because of that Transcendence 6 run yesterday. I That was one of the first time in recent memory that I struggled in DFFOO. So, what I bring you now is my top 8 lists of boss battles. Top 8 Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia bosses that made me struggle. So sit back, relax, hit like and subscribe. It contributes to the channel. Let's get it on, shall we? Bear in mind, this isn't my gameplay run. I am just borrowing some footage from creators in YouTube for the sake of having a footage. So my top 8 is the Robo Chickens from the original Sid event, Space Dreams. Now, to give you a background, this is the first time that the boss mechanic has a reduced HP damage, shield, aura. Yeah, when they buff up, they get reduced HP damage, which is a very new thing in the grand scheme of things in Upper Omnia back in the day. So during this time, the best characters were Lightning. Wait, Lightning was already there. Okay, Lightning, Sephiroth, Papalimo, and this was the C50 era. The trend back then was, is this character good with only a 35 CP or 15 CP? Because people in global tend to want to do saving for future units, and this was at the time where Noctis is coming, and I was saving up for him. So, detrimental to my run, I failed this because one of the best units that was shown back then, Sephiroth, I haven't got his kit max, and two, the best unit back then, Saz, I missed out on him and haven't got his kit max. So, yeah, it's really on me. And remember, this was the time when Kuja's Brave plus HP attack, or Sephiroth's Brave plus HP attack was the bomb. Back then, you don't have HP plus attacks. You don't have Brave plus plus attacks. You have to resort to just a normal Brave attack and to just a normal HP attack. And that kind of blows, to be honest. So yeah, when this arrived, I think the main point here is to have Sid dispel the buffs, because remember, he has dispel. And yeah, I didn't pull for Sid, and that made me struggle. And I think I didn't compete. I didn't compete on EX mission. Spoiler still, Noctis arrived. So that's one heck of a background. So that's my number 8 on the list, Sid, Space Dreams. What do you think about this fight? Those who fought it, what do you think? Did you struggle? Let me know. So now we proceed on to number 7. Number 7 is a bit of a tough one. It is a Chaos era stage, and it results into the first dimensions end fight. Now, Why did I struggle with this fight? I have some units built up. Well, Entropy back in the day, or Dimensions End back in the day, weren't just released by once. They were released in its first initial release. It was 5 of them in global. And because this is tier 1, you tend to save your best units for higher tiers, right? So that's like part of the struggle that I got. So how to manage my units. The units that I end up using in this match was Pain and Ramza, and they kind of eat up turns back in the day. And the main gripe of this scenario is the most problematic part is the Mom Bomb, which is like the middle boss of this wave. So the Mom Bomb, the prominence, who is very fast, does a huge big bang attack, and summon adds kinda 8 turns for me. It ate up my turn, so that's like what the frick, man. So yeah, I think I end up using Ramza, Pain. I think Vincent. No, it wasn't Vincent. Oh, it was Locke. It was Locke in my initial run. Now, to give credit where credit is due, those were out, some were kind of outdated, like Pain, because Pain is a Cosmos unit, and I think she got crept by that time, but she kind of held her own on my run. And some even use Agrius here, even though I elected not to use Agrius on this stage and use her on a higher stage. So yeah, this is more, the struggle is more in the which unit should I bring to a lower tier while I bring up and prep up units on the higher tier. So that's why I put number 7, the very first Dimensions End stage, which for me is like the most difficult one. When stages were introduced one by one, they come up with a character release, or the recent character is geared towards them. So that made it more quick on who would you build your team around. But this one, since all 5 of them got released at the same time, you need to think. And fortunately, tier 1 suffers from I have to use not my least loaded characters on this tier. That's why I struggled. Now, let's move on to number 6. Number 6 on the list, the Sephiroth Imps. You all know this. One of the imps buff the others and buff themselves, and they switch roles, they switch coverage. So, yeah, what there is to say, it's either the Reno Lufenia, the Kieran Lufenia, or the Imps Lufenia. But out of the 3, I struggled this the most. And if I haven't found out about Auron lowering their shields, I may not have completed this at that time of the release. I mean, the Giro Lufenia had Gladio, and he can rebuff himself very fast if you time it right. Reno, you just let them have a turn, and Raijin takes care of the rest, correct? This one I have to strategize. I have to play the perfect team. The battle is geared towards Sephiroth's burst, which I don't have, and I don't think I plan on having. And yeah, if I really didn't find out about the Auron thing, I would have skipped this event altogether. But since Auron was a thing, what was my team? I think it was Lightning, Auron, Gladio. Oh, no. It's Lightning, Auron, and Kurasame. Right. Lightning, Auron, Kurasame, and then I had a Reno call. Yeah, it wasn't the pyramid. Reno doesn't have a pyramid call back then. It was his normal shock thing. So yeah, I consider this the one of my toughest Lufenia fights. I struggled here, and I don't blame people. I don't blame people if they say they didn't struggle here. But for me, the three Lufenias that were kind of doom posted, the one that I've struggled more about is here on the Sephiroth Lufenia. We are ready for the big boys. So, coming in at number 5 is the Deuce Krakens, specifically the EX event. So, I'm using a JP footage here because I found out about this in JP. This is from Let's Play. So, if you haven't subbed to him, go sub. But, yeah, the Deuce event. Oh boy, where do I start? This I chose this over the Chaos version because one, even though the Chaos version has that strictive 0 HP requirement, you consume less skills in the Chaos version. Why? You have an EX. Here, this is still C50 or C60. Yeah, this is still the C60 era, baby, where there's no EX available. Well, technically, I think Beatrix is already here, and you are restrictive on using magic. Was that here or no? No, no. I think that was the chaos. Okay, you're not restrictive to using magic, but you get the point. And plus, look, the difference the HP makes in the Deuce EX era was kinda nightmarish. Look at your HP here, 6, 7, 80. These Krakens go faster as they go. And I'm telling you this, without this video, I wouldn't cleared the Deuce EX mission. Granted, I pulled for Deuce on that time, but I still struggle. And this was one of those times that an HP all attack was introduced by the boss. So, yeah. Good stuff. I made a video back then compiling all the Juice Krakens. I used to call them the Undertaker Krakens because they were a top hat and a trench coat. And you get my point. The Deuce Krakens really bothersome back in the day when I was just playing Upper Omnia casually. And I believe I use Ace here instead of Setzer. Ace's AoE damage helps a lot. And yeah, I think my best units back then was Noctis. And that wouldn't matter anyway. I don't know why I didn't use Beatrix here, but okay. And plus, this time, you may say, Deuce, oh, she has Note. No, back then, when you get broken, Note gets dispelled. So, what happens? More uses of skills to refresh Note. So yeah, that's why I choose EX. You use skills up and you run up skills faster in this EX fight, that more than the Chaos fight. But although just by a teeny learning curve, I think this one is much harder, and I struggled it here. I struggled it here more than the Chaos one. The Chaos one, just wait for Ultimecia and you're fine. Here, it's just luck, and you need to have the right turn order, what they say, and the rest, just pray to God that you missed the attack. Let's move on. Number 5, the dreaded Vanille LC. Now, if you notice, there's already 40 turns here. So why? Why? Because this LC, until the boss, you have 5 turns to complete. Yes, that's it, the good old C50 era, where the final node is 5 waves. Unlike today, we only have 1 wave, and it's the boss. This one, we have 5 waves, 1 mini boss at 1 mid boss, and some ads that are quickly disposed, but you get the picture. What do you notice about this lineup? This back then was the optimal lineup for Vanille LC. It was Hope, Aiko, and Vanille. So your optimal lineup when clearing this the first time it released requires pulling for Vanille. I think it's 35 CP only. Remember, the C50 era is the time where you decide if you want to skip a 15 CP or 35 CP. Mostly you skip the 15 CP in favor of 35 CP. There are some instances that you need both. And this one has some underdeveloped teams. So you got Aiko, which was very good back then in the C50 era. You got Hope, who has no limit broken skills here. I think this is one of the fights that Broadway Saiyan published back in the day. So we could have good help here. And keep in mind, you have 3 support characters on the final wave. So that means you'll take a lot of turns. There's no one dishing out damage. The thing here is Hope will build up Protect and Shell, which is resist. Aiko is healing. And then you build up Brave just to dump it all on a single HP attack. That's how tedious it got with Vanille LC. You notice Squall is there, but Squall is used for the trash waves in order to clear them fast. Because remember, we still have a turn count limit. And yeah, this is I struggled here. I didn't clear it when it first came out. You know how I cleared it? When we had a decent damage dealer back then named Kuja. Okay, maybe you're telling me, what about Terra? Why didn't you bring Terra here? Oh, Terra. Back then, Terra ate a lot of turns. She chants Madoyo, that's one turn. And then the next turn is Kono Kokage, which is her skill. I think that was skill 1. And skill is Fruisa Saide, that's skill 2. That's 2 turns. Terra takes 2 turns to attack back then. So I really want to do something with Vanille LC. This is one of the teams that kind of being highlighted. Also, notice the summon is already used. It was already used in a wave with the Malboros. That was the mid boss. So you don't get bad breath. Yes, there is a mid boss here. It's 5 waves. 3. I think it's wave 3. You fight Malboros, and in order to not get bad breath, because if you get bad breath, you get debuffs. You summon pop out Squall. And it's that. I think this was the last hard LC until last hard event until Lena, because SAS came out, and then before SAS was the prototype for the launch meta with Dark Knight Cecil. I didn't get on board with it. I was using Prish Squall Lightning on all my runs. I was kind of using Light Ramza. I didn't get to use Litico because my Aiko and Tidus lack weapons. And remember, I was saving for Noctis during the C50 transitioning to the C60 era. So, well, really, after Noctis, I saved for Renoa, so kind of struggled then. I'll talk about Renoa later. Number 2, Ultimate Odin. Okay, this is a tie, but I forgot the other event, and that other event was Abyss. It had a shaman, and it had the Zidane thing. It was when Zidane's stock went up. Remember, people are saying Zidane was bad, but his stock went up with that Abyss event. So it's tied here. I couldn't find footage. I forgot the event. That's why I can't find footage. But here, we're seeing a solo of Arden on Odin. But before this solo happened, boy oh boy, was this fight so restrictive. It was so restrictive. You need to use Noctis. It's hard with his LD. And yeah, it and the burst. You need. It's easier with the burst, but it's hard with the LD. I mean, I had Noctis LD then, and it was already hard. And you know what I did? And what I think most of the community did, they did, because Noctis does so little runs, he gives free turns, that we can just die from Odin if he gets a turn. We can die from Zantetsuken and Gem Revive. It doesn't affect your score because you're doing low turns as possible. And that is one of the keys also in Abyss, since Abyss doesn't have a turn count limit on its mission. So that's why I paired up the two. Abyss and this one with Odin, Ultimate Odin, and this was Chaos. There's already burst weapon here, this was Chaos. But I still find this fight more difficult than the Bahamut Lufenia. That's why Bahamut Lufenia wasn't even here. Got that? Okay. I mean, I have to pay 100 gems just to complete it. So kudos to those players that didn't do an exploit just to complete it. I give props to them. Me, I don't have the patience. Well, I did get Noctis' burst when I was pulling for Bash. But that's a deal for another day. I could have just waited, but it is what it is. I gem revive here, and then Vanille LC just soloed it with Odin. Okay, before we head on to number 1 on my list, I would like to give some honorable mention. Fang EX. This fight was geared towards having Tidus and Fang. Tidus EX weapon debuted here originally in the Fang EX event. But since we are global, we got some shake up on the banner releases, and they decided to put in Zell on Fang EX. I made Zell work, but that was a struggle. Transcendence 6. I hate the second wave of the mid gate. There's no orb, but guys, would you even let me have a turn? And the mechanic, you need to give them debuff, but they cleanse, and they get so many turns, the debuff runs out. So, huh? And then another honorable mention, it was a JP fight, but I think it deserves here because this is the first JP fight I struggled, even though I have good units. Safer Sephiroth. They went all in on this boss fight because it was the nearing end of the Lufenia. I think I struggled more on Safer Sephiroth than the 6-man tag team battle in JP, but Safer Sephiroth pretty much take the cake for me as the fight in Japan that I struggled the most. Now, what could be number 1? Worse than Juice Krakens. Worse than Ultimate Odin and the Gem Cheese. Now, if you've guessed Agrius, you're right. Agrius EX event. You know why I put this number 1? From the 8th place to the 2nd place, at least I cleared them. This one, I didn't clear it. This was my first failed mission for a long while. And it was very, very tough. If you ask me, I think when it comes... Okay, forget what I said that I cleared 8 to 7. I forgot I didn't clear Lena. But yeah, Agrius event held a special place for me. The good units back then was Tancred, Beatrix, Lightning. My Lightning wasn't well built back then. I didn't have her 15 CP even though I have her EX. I don't have Agrius back then. And what else? Tancred, I didn't like his mechanic. And yeah. Also, this fight right here, I managed to complete Juice Kraken, but this fight right here broke me. And it got me thinking if I should quit Opera Omnia or not. Because why did I skip on Agrius? I was waiting for Renoa. I was saving up gems for her so I can pull her EX. I think Renoa was a hype unit back then. She was that damage dealer before she became that hybrid support. So I skip out on Agrius. But yeah, this fight broke me. It made me reconsider my option if I should continue playing the game. But I am still playing the game. And I did get my revenge on its Chaos version like 8 months after, because then I chased Agrius, purpled her, and I also chased Faris. So that, I think that's a win-win situation. But yeah, this fight broke me. I didn't went into tears. So by that. So what were the famous stories there? There was lightning. If you had her fully built up, she could wreck this place. There was a Beatrix run, but it was kind of hard. I ran Faris, Beatrix, and Lightning, but remember my Lightning was underperforming, so that's a thing. I tried launches. I still couldn't figure out how Lay launch back then, so that was on me. But really, this was the fight that I struggled the most. So yeah, and that's my list. What fights did you struggle the most in the DFFOO? If you didn't struggle in any fight, congrats to you. You're a Giga Chad. So leave a like, comment, subscribe. It's no use disliking this video because YouTube has blocked it. So yeah, that's the end of the list. Thank you. Goodbye and good night. Bang.